Thank you very much for your very generous introduction, for the kind invitation to once again to be here. I'm here every year. I was even here last year when it didn't happen. But we'll make up for it. Thank you, Dr. Judy Shelton, Ned Chairman, for your leadership, for your kind words. Carl Gershman, he's a force of nature. He just, I don't know, he just persists. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's a wonderful thing. I'm honored to be here with my colleague, my former colleague, Martin Frost, a champion for human rights throughout the world. It's always an honor to be with you, Martin. And what an honor to be here and share the podium with our speaker, Speaker Ryan, as a reflection of the support that you have, that National Endowment for Democracy has in the Congress of the United States on both sides of the aisle and on both sides of the Capitol. Again, it's a privilege to be here and to congratulate our 217 democracy awardees, Dennis Bijas, Cynthia Gabriel, Cahil Parsa, Rafael Marquez, and Claudia Escobar, and her beautiful little girl. So sweet, so sweet. As the speaker was referencing Ronald Reagan, I was thinking, well, we're on the same page. 35 years ago today, President Ronald Reagan spoke at Westminster and urged Democratic people to remember that freedom is not the sole prerogative of a lucky few, but the inalienable and universal right of all human beings. In that speech, President Reagan called for a new initiative to support the march of human rights and democracy, one that would lead the world to a freer 21st century. That call was answered the following year when Congress created the National Endowment for Democracy. NED recognizes that democracy is the birthright of every person in every nation. That's why NED works across the globe advancing democracy in 90 countries on 6 continents. You foster free and fair elections in Eastern Europe after the Berlin Wall was torn down. You supported reformers in the Middle East and North Africa as they cast off oppressive regimes. You defended human rights activists in China. Last week was the 28th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. We must all reaffirm our support for the journalists, human rights activists, and free thinkers unjustly jailed in China today. And of course, the Goddess of Democracy is a depiction of that great courageous demonstration in Tiananmen Square 28 years ago. We have this goddess in San Francisco, as you know. So the fact that this is the award is something so very, very special because it was modeled after our own Statue of Liberty in certain respects, and it is reflection of the deeply embedded inalienable rights that President Reagan talked about and being awarded to these champions. Thank you for your courage for fighting. For more than 30 years, again, NED has empowered courageous people to chart the course of their country's futures. Tonight, we honor 5 men and women who exemplify that mission. These heroes have shown exceptional courage in wiping out the scourge of corruption and defending their democracies. This is very, very important. Corruption destroys the very fabric of our societies. It erodes trust, steals from hardworking citizens, and stifles economic growth. Corruption creates a vacuum that criminals and terrorists can exploit, and it robs young people of their optimism and hope for a better future. That's why these remarkable awardees are being so recognized. They faced harassment, jail, and even attempts on their lives, all to build a more honest and accountable democracies. I just tell you this little story before I proceed. I was we used to go to Afghanistan and Iraq on Mother's Day weekend all the time. And one of those, now mostly Afghanistan, but to visit our troops, the moms and the grandmothers who were serving and the rest. And usually it was a women's delegation. And one time, we went and we had the privilege then of going into the hinterlands because we would go to Kabul and see all of these accomplished women, and that was wonderful. But we also wanted to go meet women where they lived and see about their challenges. So we went, flew there, helicopter to the next place, by land. It was a very tough, arduous trip. And we got there, it was all women that we were meeting with. And they had told the governor, who greeted us with children and flowers, no men allowed in the meeting. So we went in the meeting, and the array of women who were there were, I would say, the midwife was sort of the highest ranking woman there, and it went across the board to all kinds of women, down to women who were beggars, except now one of them got a job at USAID separating raisins from twigs. And I tell you that because it's a very humble place, and they told us about health care and education for their daughters and all this or that. And then we got toward the end, one of them said to our delegation of women members, "You want us to send our daughters to school, and you want our daughters to go to the health clinic and this or that. But it's in order for our daughters to leave home, we have to have security." We all recognize that. But now, these very humble women, one of them a beggar until last year, said, "But we can't have security in our country until we end corruption." Imagine that. The wisdom coming from these women, and they all subscribed to that. So I said, "I'm going to tell President Karzai what you had to say," which I did. But people know a country cannot reach its full fulfillment. People cannot reach their full fulfillment if corruption is that blocks all of that. It takes so much courage to fight corruption because there's so much money involved. So I'm so glad that you are focusing on these 5 brave individuals who are celebrating this evening. And all have been activists that Ned supports, have achieved so much. But democracy and freedom still remain a dream for far too many people across the world. Tonight, let us celebrate the courage and the vision of those fighting to make their societies more open, more free, more representative, and more honest. Let us pledge to never relent in the fight for progress in this area. It is a long fight. My colleague Tom Lantos, for whom the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission is named, at Jim McGovern chairs, Karen Bass has been involved in many of their hearings. Oh, and Ed Royce is here, our chairman. Mr. Chairman, what an honor to see you. Thank you. Slipped in there. He's been a champion. He gave me my instructions. We just went on a trip went to India, to Nepal. We visited His Holiness the Dalai Lama when we were in India. We went to Germany, went to visit as a bipartisan delegation, our friends in NATO and the EU and all the rest. And every place, the business community came out and greeted us and this and this. And every step along the way, we talked about human rights, whether we were talking to the business community, whether we were talking about the defense ministers or whatever it was. We all kept saying, you have to incorporate human rights in what you are doing. Jim McGovern particularly was saying all of that. And the chairman gave us his concern for untouchables in India, which we conveyed to the Prime Minister of India. And your concerns were well known to him, even in advance. So thank you for your leadership, Mr. Chairman. What an honor to be here with you. So again, we have to keep making the point. It's not, we respect what everyone is doing. We appreciate the particular responsibilities they have, but we have to weave this human rights component into everything that we do. That's what National Endowment for Democracy enables us to do. So let us remember that there is nothing partisan about upholding human rights, dignity, and universal values. Tonight is an opportunity to reaffirm our bipartisan commitment to supporting democracy across the globe. And I call on all of my colleagues in both parties to join together as we congratulate the 217th Democracy Awardees. And thank you for all of your work. Thank you to Ned and Carol. Thank you.